Hey everyone, welcome back to the Light and Life podcast, conversations on faith and life in downtown Colorado Springs. I'm your host Liza, and I'm here today with Abi Tovar. I'm so excited. Earlier today, I actually called her the director of children's ministry, but she corrected me and said of kids ministry. Can you tell everyone why?
That's right. It's way cooler. Kids ministry is way cooler than children.
It does sound cooler to say that you're a kid instead of you're a child. You know?
Yeah, right.
I love it. And we were also talking a little bit about car troubles. Before we get into our topic today, I have a few things to say. One, as a younger female, it's so easy to play a prank on your dad that you went to like an auto repair shop. There's this viral trend on TikTok where you call your dad and you say, "Hey dad, I just paid $200 for premium air," and then just have them freak out, absolutely freak out. I know you said you had some car troubles recently and your husband
Yeah, totally. Putting the wrong oil. Well, it arose from putting the wrong oil in my car, and I had no idea for years. And then all of a sudden, it was out of oil, and I told my husband not to drive it. He drove it, and it basically went away. It was
died. What'd you do?
for.
Did you get a different car?
I did end up. It was rough. But
Car stress is the worst. It really is. I mean, first world problems.
yeah.
So I should be conscious.
Right.
But anyway, well, we're so glad that you're here, Abby. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to get some girl time.
Thanks.
And today we wanted to talk a little bit about being a Christian in school. So I kind of just wanted to hear, first of all, what you do, how you got to First Pres, and then what your experience of Christianity in school was.
Ooh,
so super loaded question.
Yeah. That's
Try not
awesome.
to freak out.
Right. Totally. Well, first off, I am the director of kids ministry here at First Pres. I wasn't always in that role. When I first came to First Pres, right out of undergrad, freshly married, I started as the associate of volunteer engagement. And have since then, my life has been completely changed since coming to First Pres. Just the community here is so special and so wonderful that I was just really invested from the start. And since then, one thing kind of led to another. An opportunity arose for me to be this kids min director, and looked at my life and was like, okay, God, I think you're equipping me for this. I think there's something you're doing here. And so started the conversation, and now I've been here in this role for just over a year.
That's awesome.
It's been wonderful.
We're so glad you're here. You're killing it.
Thanks.
You are killing it.
Thank you.
I go outside of service and saw that massive spaceship, and I was like, I don't know if that would have been here a while ago. So
That was fun.
see you putting in the work.
Thank you.
And those kids are having so much fun. You just finished Vacation Bible School, right?
I did. It was wonderful. We had
good.
just over 300 kids there throughout the week, and we had a couple kids actually give their life to Jesus, which
that's amazing.
wonderful. I didn't know. I was like, God, I didn't even know you could do this at my Vacation Bible School. That's wild. God, you actually work in people's lives. That's crazy. But it was
so
wonderful.
Sweet. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Huge.
So that was kids ministry, and then
Other question was, did you grow up in Christian school, or did you go to public school? And, what did that kind of look like for you as a kid? And how has it shaped your ministry?
Yeah, that's wonderful. So my mom is a music and theater teacher.
Fun.
So growing up, I always went to school with her. And at the time, I grew up in a Christian school from kindergarten through my sophomore year of high school. And then things kind of changed in that school system that we ended up switching schools. And so I went from a Christian school to a charter school and graduated I was the second graduating class of that school. So it was
brand new.
Really new.
Okay.
And everything. And it was really cool. I was really grateful for my Christian upbringing and having those roots and those foundations that I took into navigating kind of a public school.
Okay. Do you think growing up in Christian school helped lay a foundation for you, or did it turn into something that was I'm doing this because I should rather than because you want to?
Yeah.
It's a leading question because I guess that's kind of my experience is a little bit of both. So
yeah, that's good. I feel like Yeah, I feel like it's both for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have kind of a unique experience where I like received my call into ministry when I was in first grade.
That's awesome. How'd you know?
Yeah, so I like growing up just felt like I think my community was so strong in pouring and investing Jesus into me that I had this general sense of like, God, I want to be with you like
Forever.
24/7, doing ministry with you, like being on mission with you forever. And then like that never changed growing up.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So anyway, so I kind of feel like I was very like grateful for the education I received, the Christian education I received at my school. But growing up, as you are starting to formulate your own faith and stuff and seeing how that is then taught at a Christian school, it's like you have moments where you're like, oh, okay, I might think a little bit differently than some of my teachers. And so there was definitely some moments where I was more shaped.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at the charter school, since your faith was such a big part of your life, were you vocal about that? Did you, hide about it? Did you speak to teachers about it?
Yeah. I was very vocal about it. And luckily, the kids in my class at the time, they all kind of had a faith background of some sort. It wasn't like the majority of people didn't believe, which also really helped me. But yeah, I kind of was like, I always know this. I might be crazy, but like this is what my direction is. Like this is just my journey. Here I am. But there was always, as I think just in high school and middle school in general, where like your peers, there's definitely moments of testing like that faith of like, oh, you're really a Christian, like so you believe this, and this. Well, we're doing this. And so it was very trying in some moments. And then I have younger a sister and a brother. And so also seeing them navigate middle school and helping them kind of work through that. I mean, there's always there's always challenges with everything. So
I went to Catholic school. I've mentioned this a little bit growing up, and I'm super thankful for that experience because I think it gave me a really great moral compass and a lot of theological foundations that I don't think I would have had prior to that. But it was a huge culture shock, I think, going into college and having to find like a relationship with Jesus on my own and not where it's baked in to the everyday schedule of, your classes. Like in high school, we'd have prayer in the announcements. So we'd say the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd do prayer, and we'd start our day off that way. And so it turned into a discipline in college. And I remember being super tested by, I wasn't in this small bubble of everyone's a Christian, so we don't really have to talk about it because we know that everyone is type thing.
Totally.
We did talk about it. You know what I mean. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
I'm kind of babbling.
And I even would add, too, like, even if you go, I went to a Christian school out in Nashville for my first year of college, and I thought everyone, had similar beliefs than me. But even at a Christian school, like, there were people who didn't believe who went there. There were people who were on, were on different ends of the spectrum of, like, what that looked like. And that was very challenging. Like, one of my first Bible classes I had a professor come in and say he didn't believe the Bible was the Word of God. A Christian class in a Christian school.
Listeners, I wish that you guys just saw her face and we could just take a screenshot of it and turn it into, like, a meme with your mouth gaping open. Because that is crazy.
Yeah, it was,
So I can't imagine that at a Christian school or who let him here,
right?
But so I went to a public SEC school, and there is a known professor. So I had a ton of friends who took some of the same general elective classes freshman year, and there was this one philosophy teacher who, thank goodness, I didn't take it because I would have crumbled under pressure. I just know myself too well. But at the beginning of the class, it's on like syllabus day. He says, who here believes in Jesus Christ? And a few people stand up and he's like, well, we're going to debunk that. Like, I just need you to know that that's not true. That's not what I believe. And if you have a problem with that, then get out of my class. Wow. Type thing. Yeah. So, a lot of students who wanted to fight for their faith were intimidated because this is the first time that they are in school. And so they felt almost belittled for standing up because he's basically telling the people that are standing in the crowd that they're, not smart.
Wow.
for believing what they believe.
Wow.
So in a school setting, that's kind of crazy because you're told to respect your elders or your teachers or anyone in higher education, really.
Right.
But I've had opposite experiences where I can kind of see the light in some of my professors, kind of test the waters and see if I know if they believe, right?
Wow, totally.
So, yeah, it's just kind of crazy because we do, as Christians, once you have the good news, we do want to spread the news everywhere we go, which includes school. And some people might not think that's appropriate. But just, it's wild that I guess even, when did I graduate high school? I graduated 2016.
Okay.
So, in elementary school earlier than that, I didn't hear about these issues, A, because I was a kid, and what do I know?
Right.
But B, I feel like it wasn't as prevalent as it is now of like, hush, hush, don't talk about your religion or don't force your beliefs on anyone else. It's just wild to me how many times I hear of people who move here to the Springs in particular because it's hard to find a native these days.
Right.
And you hear of their college experiences as a Christian or as someone who's exploring Christianity and them being kind of tried by it.
Totally.
Yeah. And then right here, being a Christian means that we're set apart by grace. That's a quote that Abby wrote down, and I would love to just hear what you mean by set apart, especially in the school setting.
Right, totally. So being a Christian in school, first you need to know what it means to be a Christian. With Christians, we means we believe in something, and not just something, but we believe in the good news of Jesus Christ, and that we have good news to share. So we carry this everywhere. However, being a Christian, you can see this even as God interacts with the Israelites. They are different. Like there's an otherness to us as being a Christian. And so we are set apart. We are God's special people. And so that means we are different in some ways. You go back to Adam and Eve. When God created man, he created us in his image. Like we have something that's a part of us that we are made like God. And we are to reflect him to others. And so you think of like humans and animals, like we are different in some ways. And so especially like being a Christian in school, being a Christian anywhere else, it's like kind of owning that. Like, yeah, we're different and that's okay. I think there's a lot of stigma, especially and there's a lot of pressure in like middle school, high school particularly, of like trying to fit in. And especially with being a Christian, that's hard even now with like just this world becoming more opposed to Christianity. And it's like, no, there's something different about us. Not only do we have this good news, but we have Jesus like in our hearts, and that's something worth sharing. That's something worth expressing. It's not something we should conceal or hide.
So with that, like you just said, a few students gave their life to Jesus during Vacation Bible School. What, if any, what are the kinds of questions that they would ask you or other volunteers to come to that conclusion? As they're surrounded by people their age who might not have made that decision yet.
Right. Yeah. We had some stellar volunteers who were working with them all throughout the week. And we talked about, this is really actually great because our theme for Vacation Bible School was shining Jesus' light no matter what we feel. So when we're sad, we can shine Jesus' light. When we're hurt by others, we can still shine Jesus' light. And so this was the day we learned about Jesus. And it was like when we're sad about Jesus dying on the cross, we can still shine his light. And so some kids were just kind of asking about, well, what is Jesus? Like, what does that mean to their volunteers? And they just took them to the side and like just walked them through like who Jesus is. And I'm sure, it wasn't like perfect by any
Yeah, for
means.
sure.
I encourage all my volunteers. They're like, how do I share Jesus with kids? And I'm like, just do it, like in your own words. Like you can't be wrong in that by telling people about Jesus. Like you just got to do it and don't worry about it. And they did it in that moment. And so I didn't know the specifics of the questions they asked, but I do know that those volunteers like had a moment with them.
Yeah.
And afterwards I brought them a Bible and I was like, the best part of this is now you get to be with Jesus forever and you get to start this journey and talk to them about like the Bible. Here's what the Bible is, and this is how you can hear from God. This is how you can learn about him and see his love in every page. So
That's beautiful. That is so beautifully worded.
Oh,
So
thanks.
what about when education is what's the word I'm looking for? Education is cultural, right?
Right.
And what happens when Christianity is countercultural? Have you ever experienced a child who's starting to recognize that, who has come to you with that? You might not have, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we're seeing signs of it.
Yeah, totally. I haven't seen firsthand like their education being very countercultural. I've seen like family systems being countercultural to what they're being taught, here in church, and trying to navigate even that is difficult. But I think it's helpful, at least in like my mind. What was helpful for me with learning about education and dealing with the dynamics of learning from authority. And when you're in college, like you can question that, you can have a voice to talk about that. So anyway, just knowing that like education, there's a definition by the International Bureau of Education that talks about how education in the United States generally reflects the values and priorities of society. And I thought that was really helpful.
Sure.
Like, okay, if I'm a parent, like assessing this and dealing with a child in school, like it's helpful to know like education's meant to reflect like culture and society. And so sometimes when, society is reflecting Christian values, like we can get behind that and like celebrate that and help our kids recognize that. But when society is, and I think in our experiences of late, most of the time, it's countercultural to what we believe as Christians. It's good to recognize that and like kind of like just name that as like, okay, this is what the education system's supposed to be. Okay, we're going to name that. Okay, then I think you need to find.
I think I misspoke when I said,
yeah,
I guess education is cultural.
Right. Well,
But sometimes Christianity goes against.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So want to clear that
up? Set this out. But anyway, it's just like, I guess, discerning that and then trying to navigate if it is going against it. It kind of is like the Bible, and I hope I'm not like misquoting this, but give to Caesar's what is Caesar's and give to Jesus what is Jesus. It's like, okay, know how to live in that world, like be in the world but not of the world. And so when it does conflict, know that, and I actually just found this out, like parents, you have rights to access like kids' curriculum, and you have rights to like speak out if and say like my child's not going to learn this. Like there's actually like nonprofit organizations who are like fighting for that now. And so I think it's helpful to know like you do have a right to speak out if something is against what you and your child believe, and there are rights to protect you from that.
Right.
So does that answer the question?
Totally. School growing up, like it shapes kind of who you are.
It does.
Sometimes. Like I have very specific memories from school, both good and not so good.
Yeah.
That I think have made me the person that I am. And so it's so fascinating to me to hear about parents or people in a position like you're in.
Yeah.
Hear about their experience with their kids going through school and how they have to speak with teachers. But on the flip side of that is I have so many friends that are teachers nowadays and trying to, not give off a certain belief, but also stay true to, what they believe is right. So,
I think there's something so like powerful of like just being confident in that. Like I had a experience with a friend of mine growing up in high school. He was a Christian and he would bring his Bible every day to school and would read it in between every class.
Aw.
And there was like, and kids would like make fun of him. And he was just like, no, like, I don't care what you think. I'm going to read my Bible. Like, that's
Stick
what
it
it
to
is.
the man.
Right? Yeah.
That's awesome.
And eventually, you know, they stopped and they let him do it. And it's like when we go in, like, to these situations, like, again, being confident in your identity as a Christian, identity as a child of God, it's like there's something in that people will respond to that, you know. Some may be upset. That's, you know, but that's fine. That's their reaction. Some may gravitate towards that, and then you can find community in that. And then others, you know, will just go with it and have other thoughts. But it's like, once you do that, like, it's when you make it clear of like, this is who I am, like, people will have their own thoughts, and that's okay. But there is space for you to feel comfortable in that.
Oh, I just love that so much. And I think, you know, of course we're biased,
Right.
but
Yeah.
educating your kids on Christianity. I don't have a kid. Disclosure. I think we can all know that by anyone who listens to this podcast. But I did have the opportunity to live with a host family a few years back, and seeing a Christian home and the way that they taught their kids to love Jesus and love others alongside their normal curriculum was such a beautiful thing that I haven't seen in a household the way that I saw with them. So it was super redemptive, which reminds me back to your comment about resources and nonprofits that help fight for parents who want their kids to have certain rights. What are some other ways to help, or for parents to help their kids navigate being a Christian in school? Because it's not always super easy.
Yeah, it's not. And please hear me as like I say this, and I know a lot of these things are easier said than done. Like, just be confident being a Christian in school. And it's like, okay, Abby, like, we get that. Easier said than done. Which I know a lot of these, like, take a lot of work to try to build and into these different perspectives. And so for parents, I'm not a parent either, full disclosure, so I'm with you in this. But what I think would be super helpful, first, I think communication is key. Opening good channels of communication with your children can be such a benefit. In elementary school, this could be like as simple as just like asking them about their day and providing guidance with things that kind of arise. Now, you're probably not going to get, hey, what did they teach you today from like a preschooler? That's just not going to happen. But you can help them with things that they bring up. And so even just having and building the foundation of them coming to you about their education at the basis, like, I think that's super important. And then additionally, especially with elementary and like pre-K, like, the more you can plant seeds in your children of like building strong foundations of Christianity on the Lord, that's super, super important. Now in middle school and high school, I would recommend like walking with your kids as much as they allow. Like, I remember in middle school, I was like, Mom, don't talk to me. Like, no
cool
way. I am too cool. Yeah, you're embarrassing. Stop. So like wherever you can. Like I said, I had a brother and sister when we first transferred into a charter school. They were just going into middle school. And I knew that was a big thing for them. And I just got my license, so I was like in charge of driving them to school every day. And so the very first day we pull up to school and I sit with them and I'm like, okay, guys, like, I'm going to, like, I basically map this out. Hey, this is what this is going to look like. It's not going to be like.
It's not pretty.
It's not the private school that we
pretty.
went to, you know? Like, you're going to have a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions and you're just going to be everywhere. But I'm here for you. Like, and I'm here to walk through that with you. And now my siblings are in their 20s and they told me how much that meant to them, just knowing that I like was able to roadmap what they're going to experience. It helped them gain a vision of where they're heading. And so I think that's super helpful. And then the second thing I would suggest for parents is being as active as a participant as you can in your child's education. Like I said, there's lots of nonprofit organizations that will help you for like secular schools, but even Christian schools, you know, there's a whole spectrum of beliefs in Christianity. And so the more you can know about it, the more you can help navigate that. In my philosophy is, parents are the primary disciplers of their children. Mm-hmm. And so while a Christian education can help that, or an education can kind of help shape that, like you're the main shepherd in your children's life. And so just know that. Oh, I have one more.
Yeah,
of course. It's prayer. You can pray for your child. Pray for them every day. There's a lot of things, as your child grows up that you might not get to know about or that they withhold from you. And so when in doubt, pray it out.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, so what can we as a church do to help uplift these kids? Because one of my favorite things about this church is how multi-generational it is. So it's such a beautiful thing for me to see across multiple channels, this next generation of children and Christ followers and fighters for the kingdom, right? So, of course, we can pray for them, but how else can we support children?
Yeah, totally.
In this ministry, in their education?
Yeah, I think plug in wherever you can. I mean, it is so important to invest in the next generation, and even at large, it's more than just kids. Like any generation after you, you can leave a legacy on these kids. And some of the most influential people, that I knew were older than me. So, it's worth it. And you don't know, how much of an impact, like, a small investment makes, Like, if you, for our Sunday school teachers, it's just an hour of Sunday once a month. It's just that hour, you have no idea how much that impacts the kids. We had Vacation Bible School. That's just 1 week out of the year. But we had kids change their life forever with Jesus because of that. And I think, so there's definitely that. Invest in any way you can, whether that be through conversation, through serving, through praying. Just find any way. I'm just so passionate in just investing because it does make a difference. What we do today makes an impact on the future.
So church, if you're interested in getting plugged into children's ministry, please reach out to Abby. She's a wonderful resource for you. Abby, do you have your email that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's atovar, Tovar, at firstprescos.org.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Abby. I think that about wraps up this session, but if you have more questions, feel free to reach out. And of course, as always, if you're enjoying these conversations on faith and life, please leave us a review so that more people can find this podcast. And then we'd love for you to join us in the conversation. So if there's something you'd like us to discuss, you can, as always, send an email to podcast@firstprescos.org. That's podcast@firstprescos.org. And again, if you're watching the video on YouTube, leave a comment below. Be sure to check out that one face that I mentioned of Abby doing. And we can maybe make a meme together. And then we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode when we welcome back Pastor Tim for a sabbatical to discuss our current series, Lead Me Home. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.